Hello, my name is Hyoga Kajitani. This time, I would like to explain 3 Oji-Waza and Debana-Waza that you can use against men. The first is Debana-Men against men. The second is Debana-Kote. The third is Kaeshi-Do. This time, I will tell you the tips and tricks for 3 different techniques that you are all likely practicing. When I do Oji-Waza, I'm most conscious about not jumping forward too much, and instead, making the strike on the spot. Unlike techniques that you initiate yourself. In Oji-Waza, the opponent also comes forward. If we both move forward, the ma-ai becomes too close and we may get stuck. Or, since I am the one responding, the opponent may get to attack and I could end up getting hit with a men strike. I was conscious about aiming for the moment that the opponent was coming for me, without jumping forward. If you can learn the feeling of not moving forward, to some extent, it allows some room for ma-ai. That way, you can gain some composure in your mind. With increased composure, I think you will be able to do things like improve the accuracy of your techniques, predict the opponent's strike, and devise your own method of attack. What I don't want you to do, or the point I want you to note, is to be aware that you may become used to doing Waza only when it is easy to do so. Even during an actual match, if you practice with too much focus on making Oji-Waza like Debana-Kote, Nuki-Do, and Kaeshi-Do easy to hit. In an actual match, it's hard to hit men when you want to, isn't it? That's why when you practice, your opponent shouldn't make it easy for you to do Waza, and instead be attacking you like they would in a match. Which will allow you to purposefully alter the timing and perform men strikes to get Ippon. But both you and your practicing partner need to understand what you are practicing. Otherwise you will get questions like, why did you strike for men at the wrong time? Or, I can't do Oji-Waza. In order to prevent these sorts of miscommunications, you must communicate with your partner, saying things like, I want to practice being mindful not to step forward too much, so please adjust your attacks to that, or, I want to practice like it was an actual match, so please adjust your timing and come at me seriously. I think you will have a good practice that feels like an actual match if you communicate with your partner beforehand. Let's take a look at the actual Oji-Waza. Debana-Men. Slow motion of first run. Note the difference in how the strike was made. Slow motion of second run. Note the difference in how the strike was made. For the Debana-Men, I think the first run was pretty good. There are a few things to notice. First, the strike was made by accurately predicting the moment of the opponent's strike. If you look at the feet, there is hardly any forward movement, and the left foot is pulled in tight before the strike. The second one is different from the first. It wasn't a strike of patience. Instead, the striking opportunity was created by luring the opponent. So, the first and second, I think the use of the left foot after hitting is totally different. In the second one, since the left leg is bouncing around in the second run compared to the first run, it doesn't look as sharp as the first run. I think it is a good idea to be aware of the pull of the left foot even if you are luring your opponent. Before the second men strike, did you notice that there were 2 times that nothing happened, not even Debana-Waza, when the opponent was striking for men from far away? Since the ma-ai was too big for a proper men strike, I don't think it is necessary to force a Debana-Waza. This might be my own imagination, as in practicing Oji-Waza, there's something called 3 Debana-Kotes. Ya, Kote, Ya, Kote, Ya, Kote. But I think you rarely hit all 3 in the match. This is probably the reason why Motodachi makes it easy to hit these Waza during practice, and the practitioner gets used to striking only when it is easy to do so, or forcing a Waza with bad timing. I think the kind of practice that will be useful during an actual match is one where both partners are seriously aiming for Ippon, and thinking about the next Waza if the first strike happens from too far away or too quickly. Now let's move on to Debana-Kote. Debana-Kote. See again in slow motion. The first one is the image I just described. I made a Kote strike because I thought that my opponent would attack me, but my opponent didn't come. So I prepared for the next strike to avoid being hit. Then I did the Debana-Kote, but the timing was a little early. Before striking, my opponent stops for a moment before striking men. As you can see, I think it is important to sense and predict your opponent's strike. Second one. When my opponent first comes to strike men, I dodged, but the timing is completely off. I was not prepared for it. Be careful not to fall into this trap. If you force a strike at this point, your opponent will likely strike you instead because the timing is completely off and late. The second Debana-Kote is a good one. The first one looks like a Teuchi, which is hitting while positioning and dodging an incoming strike. But the second one looks like there is more weight behind the strike as the dodge comes after the strike. I think this is better. Next, we have a version of Debana-Kote from below. Debana-Kote from below. See again in slow motion. It is often thought that Kote is easier to strike from below. But I'm not so good at striking from below. As you can see from the first to the third run, the strike happens after confirming that the opponent is attacking. This is not good. The fourth one is the only strike that feels like a good hit. But it is easy to tell that the strike is coming from below, so make sure you aren't telegraphing your movements to your opponents. It is important to strike Kote or Debana-Kote from below by hiding your intent to do so. Kaeshi-Do. See again in slow motion. The last is Kaeshi-Do. I haven't been able to do Kaeshi-Do very much recently, so I need a lot more practice. You may have noticed that the time between receiving my opponent's men strike and my Do strike is a little long. As well, I have a wide stance, lowering my center of gravity, so that I can strike on the spot without moving forward. If the left foot has moved too far to the left at this point, your energy center of gravity will need to shift back to the right to move that way after the strike. If the center of gravity is shifted to the left, it will counteract the striking movement to the right. That was not a good point either. So, if I were to make improvements, I would first watch my left foot and make sure that it is open more towards my right. Then, even if my center of gravity is shifted to the left, I can still do Kaeshi-Waza. But I plan to practice this a little bit and report back to you what worked or didn't work. How was it? In this video, I explained Oji-Waza, Debana-Waza against men strikes. As I have mentioned many times in this video, I am most conscious about striking on the spot and not moving forward too much. I still have a lot of things to improve, like not hitting while my body position is less than ideal, moving my left foot, and quickening my movements after the strike. Still, I hope that you can get a few tips and tricks of your own. There are various Oji-Waza for men. For example, Men-Surya Men, Men-Kaeshi-Men, Kote while dealing with men, etc. However, I think these are used less often in a match than the 3 that I talked about in this video. However, players who win the All Japan Championships also use Men-Kaeshi-Men. You can research those areas, too. It's interesting, so give it a shot. Thank you for watching until the end.